Hello and welcome to my bed. So, um, I don't even know how to begin this, but I wanted to start a podcast. I didn't necessarily want to start a podcast, but I did want to start sharing my feelings, sharing my thoughts. I am somebody that overthinks a lot, and I often find myself wanting to vent and share my ideas and my thought processes with people. And I don't really have anybody. Well, I do have my boyfriend, but it's not fair to him to constantly like talk his ear off, just blabbing away. So I figured, why not share these thoughts and ideas of mine with the internet, because that's a safe space, right? And I'm hoping that it will be a place where people can relax, where people can find some motivation, maybe just some, I don't know, relation, some form of comfort. I'm not really sure what path this idea of mine will take. I am trying to let that go because I want to have control over everything, which is something that I am working on. I don't like using the word try. I am working on it. I'm a perfectionist. I like things to be a certain way. The way I see it in my head, I need it to, you know, just manifest into the 3D world that we live in. And when I don't have the means to make these things come out the way I envision it, or I don't have the funding, or I don't have the tools necessary, I give up. I just completely throw my hands in the air and I'm like, well, it is what it is. We tried our best. And that is something that I have dealt with for such a long time. And I am working on being less of a perfectionist. It's it's not a fun way to live. I'm not gonna lie. I beat myself up. I think of what other people are going to think. I just overanalyze before I even give myself the opportunity to create. And doing this podcast, I don't know, it feels weird calling it a podcast. Like, I guess it's a podcast. Doing this podcast is something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. I've been thinking about it for quite some time, and I just overanalyze everything. I'm like, okay, well, I want to have a cozy corner, okay? My first idea was I want a cozy corner. I want to take a space in my home and I want it to just feel very inviting, very chill, very nice, welcoming vibes. So I went online and I was like, okay, I want a beanbag chair. A beanbag. What screams cozy more than a beanbag chair? And I started looking up love sacks. Funny name, right? Love sack. So I started looking up love sacks, and they are expensive as hell. But after doing some research, I'm like, wow, this is a good value for the money apparently. Like from what people on Reddit said, it's something that is a good investment, you know? So I'm looking for love sacks, and then I reach out to someone on Facebook Marketplace and they're like, "Yeah, we have this one. It's significantly cheaper than if I would have bought it new." So it went from like 1,500 to like $400. And I'm like, what a steal. So she's telling me like the dimensions of this chair, and it's like 6 feet wide and like 4 feet tall. And I'm like, I live in a 1 bedroom, like 700 square feet. I don't know square feet. I just made that up. But like about apartment. Where am I putting this ginormous beanbag chair? So I was like, you know what? Scratch that. Can't do that. So then that made me feel like, okay, well, this is not gonna happen. This is just not gonna happen because I can't get my beanbag chair. So everything is ruined. Like literally the idea that I had in my head, it's ruined. So this is now not possible. And saying it out loud makes me realize how stupid that is. How just how frustrating it is to be a perfectionist, to feel like you can't get a beanbag chair, so you want to completely take away some form of creation that could bring you joy. How dumb does that sound? So I decided this is a test. This is a test of how far have you progressed in your journey to pulling away from your perfectionist tendencies. So I said, okay, I am going to force myself today to give the coziest of vibes. Got in my favorite pajamas, my little Goomba pajamas. I fixed the bed, but I got back in it because that just makes sense. This is the coziest place in my home. Lit a candle, and here we are, ready to begin. No matter what, the lighting is kind of pissing me off. The setting is not as aesthetically pleasing as I would like it to be, but I am biting my tongue and smiling through the pain to fight my perfectionist nature. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about perfectionism and why do we feel the need to stop our joys and creative flows just because of the littlest inconvenience. I have always been this way. I've always stopped myself from dreams, aspirations, goals of mine because of the slightest inconveniences. Because I feel like if the stars aren't aligned properly and everything is not in the just the most perfect way that it can possibly be, what's the point? What is the point, But like, what is the purpose of all this? I don't know. Maybe attempting something new, maybe working towards something that could bring you happiness. Maybe there's a world of possibilities, honestly, a world of possibilities. And because of this way of being, I have stopped so much of that. So much of that. So, hello, welcome. That was a very long introduction. My name is Jessica Eve. I am new to this. It is not the most ideal of setting that I imagined, but I hope that if you related to that little story of mine, that you will enjoy this video and that you maybe will enjoy videos to come where I just sit here and yap about life, about experiences, about thoughts and ideas that I may have that may maybe you will relate to, and maybe you won't feel so alone because I have a lot of thoughts. This brain it runs even when I'm trying to get a good night's sleep. I will find myself up at 3 o'clock in the morning, just my brain yapping away. So, welcome. Glad to have you. Let's get into it. For the past 2 years, I decided to lock down and lock down. Is that the right phrase? Lock it down? Stick to something? I don't know how to phrase that. I can't, it's not coming to me. But I decided I am going to take content creation seriously. I will choose a niche, which me personally, I hate being stuck in a box. I hate the idea of it. I hate the sound of it. I hate that, like, even the word niche in itself drives me mad. But I needed to make a living. I needed to really commit to something, which seems impossible for someone like me. I don't know why, but it seems impossible. So I decided, okay, I am going to choose my niche, gaming. I'm a big gamer. I love me some video games. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to make content, a lot of short form content based around gaming. I finally decided, stop waiting for the perfect moment. And I just put out the content. I just did what I needed to do. And I found success in it. I found myself able to pay my bills, pay my rent, keep food in the fridge, survive. And it made me realize that, like, sometimes, maybe a lot more than sometimes, you need to put perfectionism aside. And it kind of made me mad because it's just like this whole time I just had to do things. It's funny because my brain is telling me half-assed, like that's the word that's coming up, half-assed. But that doesn't, just because the situation isn't ideal to what you have in your mind, it doesn't make it half-assed, which is so funny that's what my brain is screaming. You're half-assing it. I just think it's really funny because that is that's a perfectionist mentality right there. So it made me mad because realizing that I could do things, what is a better phrase than half-assed? I could do things without so much expectation. I think that's better. I could do things without putting so much pressure on myself to have these ideal scenarios in order to move forward. You could see success from it. And I am going to be 35 this year. And it took me a really, 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 really long time to pursue my joys in life, because I'd always tell myself, well, this isn't the ideal scenario. This isn't the weather isn't perfect enough, or my weight isn't perfect enough. I don't have the proper income. I don't have the proper tools. I don't have everything that I need to move forward. And I could sit here and really beat myself up and be like, I'm such an idiot and I wasted half of my life just in a constant circle of struggle, unnecessary struggle, just because I'm a perfectionist. There are so many scenarios that I can think back on where where the outcome ended up being so much joy and accomplishments that I didn't expect to experience when I let go of perfection. So, for example, I competed in a bikini competition. And hopefully my coach isn't watching this, but I slipped up a few times. I slipped up quite a few times, and I didn't feel like I was ready. I didn't feel like I was going to make it. I didn't feel like I was going to be worthy enough to be on stage. I would occasionally skip a cardio session or two, or not be able to make it to the gym, so I had to do a home workout and thing like I was still putting in the effort, but because it wasn't the way that I envisioned it, I was willing to completely give up on something that had been a dream of mine for a long time, a goal of mine for a long time. But because I had a coach and because I had an external pressure to be like, no, you're gonna do this. I kept pushing. I kept pushing through, and I was like, okay, I mean, I don't think that this is possible, but I'll do it. I'll do it. And it was my first ever bikini competition. I came first in my class. I literally took first place. And I it's amazing to me because, again, if I would have just let my internal monologue dictate whether or not I should have done that show, I would have been sitting here today upset at the fact that I didn't take that jump, that there was another dream of mine on my list that I scratched off as never gonna happen. And because I let go of perfectionism, I have something that I am incredibly proud of and I continue to talk about to this day, because that's a big accomplishment. That is a big, massive accomplishment. And I wouldn't have got there if I just said, this isn't the ideal scenario, so it is what it is. We're just going to give up. Another example of me letting go of perfectionism is starting my streaming career. I haven't streamed in a couple months, and that's another hill I'll have to get over in the next, I don't know, we'll see. But I didn't I wanted to be a streamer for such a long time. I remember being on like Stickam Japan, which you guys probably have no idea what that is, but I used to just be on there live cam, talking my broken Japanese with my friends. I loved Twitch, even when it was called Justin TV. I think my brother introduced me to it, and I remember seeing Pokey streaming from her dorm and just thinking, wow, that looks like so much fun. Like, I would have a really, really good time doing that. And because I didn't have a PC, because I didn't have the perfect setup, the perfect environment, I just let it go. I just let that dream go, and I was like, you know what, this is never going to happen. And it wasn't until COVID hit that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm home anyway, right? I ain't going nowhere. I had just enough money to build a PC. And I was like, well, damn, maybe this is the time. Maybe this is, I could actually do this, you know? And I was living in a really crappy studio apartment, mold in the air, not in the best of relationships, not in the best headspace, to be honest. But I was able to push past my perfectionism, and I just decided to go live. I just decided to, I mean, it is a bit different because I was able to buy the things that I felt like I needed, which I didn't need any of that. I could have streamed from my laptop with my crappy camera and found joy and success through that. But it's like, in the way my brain works, it's like, well, if the ideal scenario, you know, like, you don't have the perfect camera and you don't have the best computer and you don't have enough money to buy all the greatest games, you can't find success, which is complete bullcrap. I have established such an amazing community that even though I haven't streamed for like 4 months, they'll message me and be like, hey, when are you going live? Hey, we miss you. Hey, hope everything is well. And I don't think I give them much. I don't think I give them nearly as much as other streamers give. And that's what I want to like realize in myself. Like, being more true to who you are is what really makes you stand out. You don't need all these external factors to make people appreciate you and like you. And I'm sorry if I'm going off astray slightly. Hopefully not, but perfectionism really, is perfectionism a word? I think it is. Being a perfectionist, it really does stop you from seeing the beauty in yourself, the beauty in the rawness of your purest self. Like, just who you are without any expectations, without any external forces, without anything more than your true inner self. And I want to experience who that is. I want to embrace all the imperfections of myself. I'm getting emotional. Yeah, I think there's something really, really, really beautiful about being imperfect, but people that have a similar experience as I do, where you just feel like you just can't be an imperfect version of yourself. You find so much pushback and so much struggle and so much difficulty in finding joy in life because you're forcing yourself to be and always show up as this perfect version of you. One thing that I started doing, because I know I have to work on this and I have to test myself constantly. One thing I began doing is art. I began creating art again. And it has been quite some time since I last I mean, well, I'll do some sketches here and there. I'll practice trying to do hands because I can't draw hands for the life of me. But I gave myself some time to look back and really analyze when I was younger, before I realized how messed up this world is. My purest of selves. What did I enjoy doing most? What brought me pure joy when I was a child? And a lot of what I kept coming back to was just creating. I used to paint. I used to mess around with like Play-Doh, clay, I used to draw. I used to write. I used to do all these forms of creation. And at some point, that all just stopped. At some point, every one of those forms of creation that I enjoyed became, well, she's better at that than I am, so what's the point? Or I just can't get this technique down, so what's the point? And I feel like that's such a mean thing to do to oneself, to tell yourself, well, you don't even create good. Well, you don't even create well. So give it up. Let it go. It's not worth it. And I can think of a moment in time when not only was my own internal voice attacking me, but it was from the people around me that, I don't know if knowingly or unknowingly, I was told that I just wasn't good enough. There are many situations in which I was told I wasn't good enough. And I guess that made me tell myself I'm not good enough. So one example was in junior high school, I took art class. I took art class because I used to do, I used to draw anime style drawing when I was younger. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do art. Like, I love drawing. And I know she didn't do this intentionally, this teacher that I had at the time. But there was a girl in the class, and she was amazingly talented. I hope she's doing well. She drew realism very beautifully, very breathtaking work. And the teacher's response to her compared to me was a type of reaction of like, like it's, my memory is hazy, so, bear with me here. But I do recall the emotion behind what happened rather than the actual exchange that happened. But I remember her looking at what I had drawn and giving the feeling of like, okay, kind of weird, but sure. Good job. And then moving on to the next girl with the, whoa, this is amazing class. Take a look at such and such's art. And I'm sure that brought that student so much confidence, rightfully so. But that feeling of, oh, I didn't get that reaction. So maybe I just shouldn't do this. Maybe she's meant to be an artist and I'm not. And maybe I was just a sensitive kid. Maybe that's all it was. But I also dealt with it at home. My mother is the type of woman, she's West Indian, and if you're West Indian, you can probably relate. She was never truly proud of anything that I had done. I could probably get straight A's. I don't think I ever got straight A's, but I could have probably gotten straight A's, and it really would go unnoticed. It's more of like, well, yeah, that's what you should be doing. Let's say I got 5 A's and a C. Then it became, well, why did you get a C? This girl in your class got straight A's. So why are you getting a C? And it would be that kind of encounter where it's like, I'm only going to focus on you or engage with you to focus on the negative things. We won't really uplift all the good in you. I'm just going to fixate on the things that need to be fixed. And compare you to people that are doing the things the way that you should be doing them. I hope I articulated that well because I'm kind of all over the place right now. But so I think from that being the constant in my home, it now made me also only fixate on the negative and only want to show up if I could be 110% my best self. Hence, the perfectionist nature. So I began picking up art. Back around. I began painting again and drawing again. And it's so funny the way the mind of a perfectionist works, because I went to the art supply store and I bought, some acrylic paints. I strayed far, far away from oil paints because my father had bought that for me when I was like 7, and it was quite the experience for a 7-year-old. When, before the day and age of YouTube. Anyway, I digress. I bought some acrylic paints and brushes and canvases. And I decided, okay, let me paint. I'm just going to follow along with this video like I'm in a class. And the amount of arguments that I had in my brain with myself. This doesn't look like a tree. This isn't the right color. This doesn't even look like a leaf. What is this, grass? Why isn't my grass coming out the way this guy's grass is coming out? Why won't these colors blend? I just blended these colors together and now I'm out of the paint and now I can't recreate that same color that I just made. Why is the paint drying so fast? What do I do? What do I do? I expected this experience to be stress-free, a good time, and I was there with the most mental battle that I have ever experienced in my life. And it's just so funny thinking about it. These are tears of laughter, don't worry. It's so funny thinking about it because it's just like, this is what you deal with every day. And this is the fight you have to go through just to paint. To do something where you should be free flowing. You should be just letting yourself, your expression, your feelings, your emotion just come out on the canvas. And you're judging everything. You're stopping yourself because you are such a perfectionist that you can't even enjoy creation anymore. That was quite the eye-opener. That was quite the experience. And it made me realize how bad it is. It made me realize how, like, just thinking about it right now, it feels like this wall that I'm like banging my head against. Because it is that frustrating. And I know, like, if you're not a perfectionist, I know this sounds insane. But I would hope that you are, and that's why you're resonating with this video, or maybe you want to understand someone else that is also a perfectionist. But the amount of struggle it is just to push yourself over this wall and just freely move is incredibly difficult. It is incredibly difficult. And as I talk about it now, I know I haven't touched my paint. I haven't touched my paint in probably, I want to say maybe 2 months. And that wasn't the experience to draw me away. I have painted maybe since I bought them about 4 times, and each time has felt like that. And there's also something very, I don't know, therapeutic in not the process. I'm I know it should be the process. It should be the process that brings the joy. But at the current state that I'm in, it's not the process, it's more so sitting down and reflecting after the process. That brings me great joy because I am closer to learning more about me. I'm learning more about what makes me the way I am and what battles I need to overcome. And knowing the problem is the first step to getting better. And don't get me wrong, I love my little paintings that I've done, and I'm excited to get better at this craft, at just embracing my imperfect creativity, my raw creativity. But yeah, that was quite the experience, and I highly recommend, if you are a perfectionist, throw some paint on the canvas. Do something where you are forced to be imperfect, where you are forced to show your raw self without the ability to do any better. I don't know. I think something that will really snap a perfectionist out of their bubble is making them do something that is new. Because there's no way you're perfect at it. You try your hardest, but there's no way you're perfect at it. So if you force yourself to do something new, if you force yourself to be creative, if you force yourself to just express yourself, even journaling, I started journaling and I wanted to have a format. I wanted to organize my thoughts and my feelings. Even before starting this podcast, I just wanted so badly to make sure, am I going to say things the right way? Am I going to be able to structure myself the right way? What if my brain trails off? What if I completely go off topic? And like I'm fighting here. I'm fighting here the ADHD to stay on topic. But I just, like, I'm not gonna lie. I have an iPad in front of me with like an outline, but honestly, I'm in such a flow of things that I don't really need it. I don't really need it at all. It's just so funny. It's just so funny being a perfectionist because when you actually vocalize it, it seems so silly. It seems so silly to stop yourself from so many experiences that you could have just because you're limiting beliefs that it can't be done unless X, Y, and Z is falling in the most perfect way. Yeah. I think I've rambled enough. Um, what I have learned from this, I do at least want to have some kind of conclusion. I've learned that it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to show up unready, unprepared sometimes, I mean, maybe not for an interview, or maybe for an interview. Why not just walk in there and be like, hey, man, I'm unprepared, but I'm here to give you the realest version of me. And if they don't like it, maybe that wasn't the job for you. I don't know. Don't take my advice. I'm not a professional. But I've learned so much more about myself, forcing myself to be creative, and it feels good. It feels like, how can I explain it? It feels like the inner child in me had been turned to stone. And every time that I force myself to be imperfect or to show up even though I wasn't ready, it's like I chisel a little bit of that stone away and I can see more and more of her true self. Yeah. It feels good. It's scary. I'm not gonna lie, it's scary. I'm building anxiety right now as I think of imperfection. But it also feels good. So if you are struggling by your perfectionist tendencies, feeling crippled by it, and just don't know how to move forward, I would recommend choose some form of creation. Pick an outlet, anyone. It doesn't have to be artistically. It could be poetry, it could be writing a story, it could be journaling, it could be dancing, it could be singing, and just do it. Don't think, just let your brain do what it wants to do. Let it show up as its true raw form and just go from there. Start with baby steps, and it's gonna feel weird and it's gonna probably feel uncomfortable, but I think when you can sit afterwards and actually reflect, you will realize that you learned a little bit more about yourself and you've allowed yourself to freely be you without any expectations. I hope that this video brought you some form of comfort. Again, I, as I said for the past 40 plus minutes, am a perfectionist, and this is hard for me to do in not the most perfect of scenarios, but I'm going to do it, and I will be uploading this video, so I'm sure, yep, if you're watching it now and you enjoyed, let me know in the comments down below. I hope I was able to help anyone, and maybe you just needed to hear somebody yapping in the background. If that was what this was for you, I'm glad. If I could help in any way, shape, or form, I'm glad. I think I'll end it here. If you enjoyed this kind of content, let me know. I have many, 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 many thoughts in my brain that I need to get out. And I would love to share it with you guys if you're interested. I guess like, subscribe, all that jazz. And I love you sincerely, very, very much. You are loved. And don't forget that. Thanks for watching. Take care.